Some time ago, David Silverman, president of American Atheists, found himself the object of criticism because he said that there are secular arguments against abortion. I seem to be one of the few who agreed that this is probably true. You don't have to be religious to be against abortion. However, while I believe there are secular arguments against abortion, I find them to be just as bad as the religious ones. Here's a video in which such arguments are presented.
The fetus will depend on its mother for its sustenance, but also once the fetus is born, it's an infant in the world, it's still going to be entirely dependent on its mother to survive. Entirely. It's almost just as much of a parasite outside the womb as it is in the womb. So I don't see the logic in, well, it's a parasite, it's dependent on the mother, it's still baking, it's still developing, and it should be able to be terminated at any point, but then suddenly once it's born, then no, you can't kill it then. I mean, it's just as dependent on the mother as an infant as it is dependent on the mother when it's in the mother's womb.
No, it isn't. It's arguably just as dependent, but the difference is that it is not necessarily dependent on the mother. After the child is born, responsibility for his or her well-being is transferable. The mother can relinquish responsibility for the child after birth, and I think she should be able to relinquish responsibility before birth. Parenting is a responsibility that shouldn't be forced on anyone, and in my opinion, childbirth shouldn't be forced on anyone either.
But it's still terminating a life, a human life, that has this full set of DNA.
I hear this argument from a lot of abortion opponents, and I've never understood it. Why does it matter if someone is simply a member of the human species or has human DNA? That's basically saying that they are valuable because they have molecules in their cells that are similar to the molecules in my cells. Why would I care about that? Not only does this conclusion not seem to follow, I think it's degrading to the aspects of human beings that are actually valuable. I don't feel empathy for other people because of their DNA. I feel empathy for them because I know what the experience of being human is like. I know what it's like to be averse to death. I know what it's like to value my life and my future. And I empathize with other people who are also averse to death and who also value their lives and futures. I don't have that same kind of empathy for beings who have no concept of themselves, their futures, their lives, or their deaths. A fetus doesn't care about these things because a fetus has no awareness of these things. After a certain stage of pregnancy, a fetus can suffer, and I do empathize with that. It might make sense to restrict forms of abortion that cause superfluous suffering to the fetus, but I doubt there are many forms of abortion that cause more suffering to the fetus than the suffering caused by forcing someone to give birth against their will.